Good afternoon and welcome to our NVES industry webinar number 6. It's lovely to have so many people joining us again today. We might have some people still popping in to the webinar, but we might get started so that we use our time to the maximum that we can. I'm going to start by passing to one of my colleagues, Gemma, who will take us through an acknowledgement of country. Oh, if I could just ask anyone who's on the line to please make sure you're muting when you're not speaking.
Thanks, Karen. Daura Nuna Wall. Yangu Nala Manyan Duni Manyan. Nula Walwari Daura Wari Dindi Wanjera Lidinian. This is Ngunnawal country. Today we are all meeting together on Ngunnawal country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders.
Thank you, Gemma, and thank you to everyone who's joining us from not just here in Australia, but actually also all around the world. We know we've got some international colleagues joining us. We welcome you. We will try and keep as much time available today for you to ask questions. So if I can just pop to the next slide. So just a bit of a reminder about how we've run this before, or if you're new to this so you know. Last time we were able to run this, we ran through Teams. People really appreciated, I think, the ability to put their hand up. So a good old Teams raise your hand. So if you'd like to ask questions, you've got 3 ways you can do that. You can raise your hand and I will call on you at the right time so that we can let you ask your questions. You're also welcome to log into Slido if you'd like to ask your questions anonymously. So you'll see the details on the screen right now for joining us at Slido with the hashtag or the number that you need to get in and our passcode. And of course, you can also use the chat function here in Teams if that's available to you to pose your questions as well. So we are recording this webinar, and as we have with the others, we will be publishing this on our YouTube channel, the NVES Regulator, post this session. Please make sure that you do keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking, and I will call on you if you raise your hand. So please just wait until I call on you, just so that we have as little feedback and can keep everything as clear as possible for everyone listening in. So before I hand off to my colleagues, because you won't hear all that much from me today, which is good, I think, I thought I'd just take you through a couple of the key terms, and we might just move to the next slide, please, team, which are some of the some of the terms that we use pretty regularly. Most of you probably use far more regularly than we do, but just wanted to make sure, in case we had any new colleagues or anyone joining us today who wasn't quite sure what some of these things were. So we won't always stop and go into detail about what these terms mean, but if you've got any confusion or any uncertainty along the way about what we're saying or what we mean when we talk about, for example, a rover account admin, this gives you a quick cheat sheet, and of course this will be available on the recording later, but also please feel free to ask for clarification along the way if you're not sure what we're referring to. I'm not going to walk through all of these items. Like I said, I think most of you are probably actually more familiar with them than I am at this point. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass this on to my colleague Gemma, who opened us up with our beautiful acknowledgement of country in language. And Gemma's going to actually take you through the guts of today. We're here to hear about the NVES Portal. And so over to you, Gemma.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. As Karen said, my name is Gemma. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the new NVES Portal. We have a short video, which we'll play first, which will show the main functionality of the portal. So just click through to the next slide, please. Thank you.
The new Vehicle Efficiency Standard, or NVES Portal, will become available late September 2025. It supports regulated entities, such as car manufacturers or suppliers that hold a vehicle type approval to meet their compliance requirements under the new Vehicle Efficiency Standard Act 2024, or NVES Act. This video will walk through the portal and its functionality. The NVES Portal has been developed as a central tool for regulated entities and their authorised users. It lets them view and manage their emissions performance over time, the application they have submitted, requests for information from the regulator, and NVES vehicle data. They can also access relevant forms and apply for an NVES Unit Registry account. Built out of the Rover platform, entities will be familiar with the functionality. To access the NVES portal, entities must have an active Rover account. In Rover, they will see an icon that links to the NVES portal. This will only appear if they have the correct permission. This permission is called NVES Management and is added to a user's authority to act by their Rover account administrator. Once done, the NVES portal icon will appear in the Rover dashboard and the authorized user can access the portal. When opening the NVES portal, the user will land on the dashboard. The dashboard is where they can perform a number of functions to manage compliance. The main pages are Executive Contact Page, Notifications, Vehicles, and Applications. Let's go through each of them. Starting from Rover and opening the NVES portal, users will be able to add or update the entity they represent, executive officer, and secondary contact details. This ensures they and the entity they represent receive critical updates, such as notifications of interim emissions values, final emissions values, and the issuance of units when available. The notifications page is where all notifications, outcomes of applications, or requests for information will be held. The vehicle page lists the entity's covered vehicles as entered on the Register of Approved Vehicles, or RAV. It shows each vehicle's emissions target and its performance against the target. Authorized users can filter, sort, and export this table to a spreadsheet for their own records. The application page is where authorized users can apply for an NVES Unit Registry account. Other application types will be made available over time. On this page, users will be guided through the steps to apply for a Unit Registry account. This will consist of confirming the details of the regulated entity they act for, the executive officer of that entity, and their own details. They will also be required to fill out a fit and proper person declaration in order to be assessed. Once a user has finished in the NVES portal, the Return to Rover button will take them back to the Rover homepage. Learn more at nvesregulator.gov.au.
So to recap what we just saw, when released, you'll be able to see your running emissions value. You'll be able to view and export your NVES vehicle data of the covered vehicles you have added to the RAV, and you'll be able to apply for a registry account. Next up, over to the account managers, Amalia and Rob, who will take you through the detail of what you just saw and provide, hopefully, answers to all your questions. Amalia, over to you.
Thanks, Gemma. Hi, everyone. My name is Amalia Edavane. I'm an account manager, and today I'll be chatting with you to talk about the NVES portal from a regulation point of view, the IEV estimator tool, and a little bit about what a fit and proper persons is. So let's talk about the NVES portal and how it ties into existing permissions in Rover and the RAV. It's really important to note existing permissions will not change with the release of the NVES portal. However, the permissions assigned in Rover will now impact who can see the NVES portal because it will be Rover admins for each regulated entity who will be able to grant others access to the NVES portal. For example, if I have Rover admin access for Amalia Motors, I am the one granting access to the NVES portal for my regulated entity. Given this, it may be worth considering who has what roles in your organisation and who has which permissions in Rover. When the NVES portal is live, whoever Rover admins nominate NVES portal authority to act sub-permissions to, including Rover admins, can see the NVES portal. This is important because if you have access to the NVES portal, you can see NVES vehicle data, access to IEV, FEV, and REV values for your regulated entity. Not only that, you also have the ability to open the registry account for the regulated entity. The first person to open the registry account becomes a registry admin for that regulated entity. Registry admins will manage registry permissions going forward. These admins will also have to conduct fit and proper persons checks on themselves and their company, and are responsible for declaring going forward all people they give permissions to are fit and proper persons. In addition, if you want to change your admin, you must contact the NVES regulator. So what permissions are available in the unit registry? This next slide breaks down the permissions more clearly. As discussed, when the portal goes live, all Rover admins will get NVES Portal permissions for that regulated entity. If you are a Rover admin for more than one entity, you will be able to see the portal for each entity you are an admin for. This means if you are a Rover admin for more than one entity, you'll be able to see NVES data for more than one entity. Once a registry account is opened and an admin is assigned concurrently, you can assign registry viewers, initiators, and authorizers. Registry admins aside, other permissions functionality won't be available to do as some of the functions aren't yet live, i.e. you can't do credit trading because no IEVs have been issued. In this slide here, we can see if we go from left to right, the blue column is the permissions available. And then on the right to that, we can see what permissions are available for each user and can compare and can contrast that against each user. To recap, your Rover account admins can grant access to the NVES portal for themselves and for others, can view NVES vehicle or NVES positions and download NVES data for the entities they represent, can view requests for information from the regulator, and can apply to open an NVES unit registry account for the entity or entities they represent. They cannot access or manage your unit registry unless granted the registry admin role. So it's really important to know who your Rover account admins are and to adjust your Rover permissions if required. Anyone with an NVES portal access can apply to open a unit registry account. The first person to open a registry account will be granted registry account admin access. They will need to fill out the registry account application form and will need to make 2 fit and proper person declarations for the regulated entity they represent and for themselves. As we mentioned before, they will also need to do any fit and proper persons for anyone else they assign permissions to going forward. As touched on in the video before, when you're granted permissions to the NVES portal, the NVES portal icon will appear in the Rover login page as shown. For those granted the NVES portal permissions, you can then access the NVES portal to the top right of Rover. After clicking it, you can then go through to the dashboard. In this dashboard, you can see the target average, the fleet average, and the REV for the fleet to provide you with information on your IEV at a single point in time. Directly under that, you'll see a link to apply to a registry account where you can become a registry admin and then assign permissions, like the admins, the initiators, the authorizers, etc. If you have authority to act for multiple regulated entities, you'll be able to switch between the entities in the top right of the web page. You can also see on this slide the NVES Estimator tool, which we'll talk about now. So the NVES IEV Estimator tool will be available shortly. It'll be available through the NVES portal, just like we've seen, through the NVES Regulator website, and through your email if you're a regulated entity. The NVES Estimator tool is a tool to help you see how your whole fleet will perform over a period of time, and is a point of and will help people tweak their fleet mix to see how it will impact their IEV over time. It is not a guarantee of actual results in any way. And just kind of circling back to submitting NVES data, Obviously, this is very important. So as we've seen before, here are some do's and don'ts when submitting your NVES data. So there's some resources available, such as the RAV guide and validation rules. And please make sure you are using the latest submission template. And we really highly recommend taking the time to ensure you submit true and accurate data. And a way to do that is audit trails. They're really helpful to ensure that you do submit true and accurate data. I'll pause there for any questions.
Thanks, Amelia. I don't think we've had anything come through on Slido just yet. So let me open the floor to see if anyone wants to pop their hand up or pop anything into the chat that they have questions on up to this point. Of course, noting that they might be digesting and we might need to keep rolling through and come back to questions in a little while if necessary. Oh, great. We do have a question here, Amelia. Can you save multiple scenarios in the IEV estimator?
So
I'm not sure if...
Yeah. Well, would you have to send us through a little bit more information on what you mean by multiple scenarios? Sorry. I think to confirm, though, just from how I understand the question, you can enter multiple vehicles, so you'll be able to see a whole fleet information in the IEV estimator. Does that answer your question?
Maybe to add, because we keep talking about it just as the estimator, but to be clear, it's an Excel file. So you might find that you need, if you're trying to compare lots of different pieces and you want to put them all in the same file, you can probably do fancy things with Excel. I don't know the best answer to that. There is a thumbs up, so I think that has perhaps answered the question, either that or someone is asking the question again. I might just move on if we get further, because there are a few more questions and that might clarify some. The next question is, will the general public be able to review a regulated entity's FEV, or will this only be visible via the NVES portal? Really good question.
Yep. So you'll be able to see the FEV via the portal, and jump in if I'm wrong, Karen, but that will only be available to the regulated entity.
So I think, so that's correct in terms of availability through the portal. Later on in today's session, we have my colleague Simon Clegg, who many of you will have spoken to before, talking about some of the consultation that's coming on the NVES rules. One of the really important questions to be answered there is whether or not there should be rules made to have further publication beyond what the Act currently requires. Simon will take you through that consultation process and timing, etc. And I think that is a very live question. So at this point in time, there's no requirement for us to publish the FEV. There's a question to be asked through that policy process of whether we should have a rule around that. So that one is maybe still to come in terms of an answer. I might just jump to one or two of the questions in Slido, if that's okay, and then I'll come back. There is still another question in the chat. And these are getting to some of the nitty-gritty, Amelia, and if you need to ask to go back to some of the slides, please feel free to. I think this is a really good question that we've asked ourselves, and I'm sure that you'll have the answer to. And it's this: can the role of the initiator and the authoriser be the same person?
Yeah, for sure. So at this point in time, they can't be, but we're looking to make that functionality available as well in the future.
Thanks, Amelia. And I think that there's, if there is currently a need in your organisation to have that be the same role, the account managers are certainly on hand and ready to work with you about what some workarounds will be until we're able to release that functionality. Amelia, another question. Which is kind of similar. In the registry, can a person hold two roles? So, for example, be an admin and an initiator.
Sure. I'm going to ask Rob to answer that one, please.
And it might help if we just go back a couple of slides and bring up the boxes that have all the ticks and crosses, just as a reference point while we have Rob popping up. Do we have Rob here?
Yes, I'm here, just chiming in from the background. For those of you I haven't spoken to before, I'm one of the NVES account managers. So a person can have multiple roles in the registry. They could be the registry account admin, they could be an initiator and an authorizer, but in a single transaction, they won't be able to say initiate and authorize. So that was going back to what Amelie, as you explained previously, but yes, they can be an admin and they could be an initiator.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for that clarity. It is one of these sort of really core questions about how a company wants to operate, who they want to apply these roles to. Another couple on Slido, and then I'll come back to the chat because I don't want to lose anyone. So the question is, if we have multiple rover admins, can we remove access to NVES but allow them to retain the rest of the admin authorities?
Rob, would you be able to answer that one too, please?
Sorry, I was just finding the unmute button. Can we move? Sorry, I was just reading the question. Karen, I don't know if you've got a quick answer to this one.
Yeah, look, I think the short answer is no. So if someone is a rover admin, they will be an admin and have the ability to access the NVES. Of course, you might have your own business arrangements that says that person won't actually get into the NVES portal, but from a system perspective, we're not able to limit the rover admins from being able to access the NVES portal at this point in time. I think that's right. Please feel free, if any of my team think I've got that wrong, to jump in. Aldrich, thank you. You've got some clarification.
Yep. So yes, the NVES management separate from.
Sorry, Aldrich, you're just cutting in and out. Perhaps is your mic not near your face?
Sorry. Yes. So the rover admin role and the NVES management role are separate things, though the rover admin can always sign themselves the NVES management role at any time. But you will be able to remove a rover admin's NVES management role and retain the admin authorities in rover. Does that make sense?
Okay, clear
Yes.
as mud, I think. I think this might be one that we will dive into deep in the face-to-face with our regulated entities as well, because I think this will be the case and a question for quite a few entities. All right, I might move on. I did keep promising to come back to the chat, so let me go to the chat, and then we'll take a couple more, and then we might just move on with some of the presentation and come back to some of the further questions. We will have time at the end. So next question that had come through was, will data submitted to the portal be accessible to other entities or used for public reporting?
So the public reporting point comes back to kind of what Karen mentioned before. So that will be part of Simon's presentation shortly. In terms of the first part, will it be available to other entities? No. But as we did mention, if you have authority to act for more than one entity, then that person will be able to see the portal information for every entity they can act for. But it will only be that person.
Thanks, Emily. That's great. So I might just take one more off the Slido, and then we might move on to the next bit of the presentation, which I think will probably prompt a whole lot of new questions. So the next question in the Slido is, what is the deadline to apply for access and begin using it for the 2025 performance period?
Sure. Rob or Aldrich, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take that question by saying it is the NVES portal. It could be the registry account. There's no deadline as far as I'm aware. You can jump into it as soon as it's released. You probably would want to apply for a registry account before February next year, because that's the time when we'll be releasing the interim emissions value and the first sort of NVES units. So you'll need a registry account in order for those units to get somewhere.
Thanks, Rob. I might just add to that. While if you're getting units, you might like to make sure you get your hands on those as quickly as you can. It's not necessary. You do have up to 12 months after the issuance of the IEV to actually create your registry account. And similarly, if you're not going to be issued units and you're still thinking about whether you will trade or how you might trade, you've got some time to actually decide to open a registry account. So it's not something that there is a hard deadline for. The real deadline will be if you should have units either assigned to you or you're hoping to trade for units. You must apply and have that account open within 12 months of us having issued the IEV, so that we can actually issue those units. But we will certainly be talking far more about that as time goes on, and I fully expect that most people, as Rob suggested, will probably want to apply for their registry accounts probably before they're expecting to receive their IEV, where they're expecting to hit some units. I might hold the rest of the questions. There are still a few more unanswered, but we might move on with the presentation and come back to those questions if that's okay, because I do think there's still quite a bit to get through, and some of the questions might be answered in some of the later presentation. Thank you so much, Amalia. So I think the next part, if I'm right, might be you, Rob, talking about the FPP, which we've had a lot of interest in the past. And so look forward to illuminating a little bit more about what that looks like. We're just having a little bit of lag, it looks like, getting the slides moved along. Did we not have the FPP conversation next? Sorry, Vinny. It's okay if it's not. We can jump to Simon. Sorry, if
Simon's next.
My apologies, everyone.
Yes.
That's my mistake. So sorry. So let me invite Simon, who will perhaps answer some of those questions about the consultation and about the potential for publication. Simon, lovely to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, and thanks for giving us a space in your presentation. A lot of you will know me already. I'm the Director of NVES Strategy and Policy in the Reducing Surface Transport Emissions branch, so we're actually a separate branch now to Karen's, but we work very closely. We're currently working on some additional legislative detail for the NVES Act. So if we could get the next slide, please. We'll run you through what we're proposing to come out to you to seek your input. So the main thing we're working on is the NVES rules. There's quite a wide range of areas where rules can be made underneath the NVES Act, and we're looking to consult the people who are regulated under NVES, essentially this group, but also other stakeholders who are interested in the performance of the NVES. Next slide, please. So we're preparing a discussion paper on the rules that we're going to make under the NVES Act. We've had a question already, when will it be released? Imminently is the answer, so we're in the final stages of getting that together to push out to you. We're aiming to have that out for 3 weeks consultation, and the topics we'll be covering in that paper are fivefold. So first of all, the authority and responsibility of a registry account, opening a registry account, the fit and proper person test, dealing with units, which is both transferring them and extinguishing them, and disclosure of information on NVES. Next slide, please. We'll have that on the department's website as opposed to the regulator's website. There'll be a webinar during that 3 weeks when we'll run through the detail and provide an opportunity for questions and answers. Once we've got all that feedback, we'll be putting advice up to the Minister for her consideration. We then plan to produce an exposure draft of the actual rules that would be made for consideration. And then once we've got some feedback on that, they'll be put to the Minister to be made. And that's done by her signing them and then us registering on them on something called the Federal Register of Legislation. And through all our lines of communication, we'll keep you informed on how that's tracking. Next slide, please. That's not the only subjects that we plan to make NVES rules. There's 3 other areas that we're thinking about would be in a second tranche. We don't have a time frame for that yet, but they would be particular issues like are there any details for adjusted RAV entries or destroyed vehicles? How we're going to go about correcting the registry when there are errors that need to be sorted out and the consequences flow through. And that we're also conscious of the fact that the units are actually property, and they may actually have security interests tracked to them, and we need to find a way that they would actually be recognised in the operation of the registry. So they're probably topics that are probably more corporate in most companies, but we'll want to come and talk to you about that in stage 2. I suspect that'll be next year. Extra slide, please. The other thing we just quickly give you is an update on the ADR changes required to support the NVES. We're still consulting with the emissions testing technical working group on those changes. The ADR changes that are working through the system and various levels of approval, the new CO2 testing requirements for cars, SUVs and utes. We're giving thought to a new fuel consumption label that would comply with the new Euro 6 testing requirements. That's WLTP as opposed to NEDC, which is the one that's currently used and actually underpins the NVES. And then there has actually been a conversion procedure developed, and that would be published as well, which enable you to only have to test a WLTP and convert it back to NEDC. That's all the information we have. We'll be in direct communication with you on those issues. Thanks, Karen, for giving us a slot just to let people know what's coming.
No, we appreciate it, Simon. And before you go back off camera, you'll be shocked to know someone's got a question.
Of course.
And the question is, when will the NVES rules be released?
Well, as I said, there's a paper with all the issues imminent. So that'll be out in September for consultation. We expect then the exposure draft would come out probably mid to late October. There won't be as much time to look at the exposure draft because it'll just be the actual drafting on the issues, but that's the time frame. And then aim for them to be made in November to come into force in December.
Thank you. And of course, you know, with all the usual caveats, I'm sorry for those of you who are really tired of hearing the public service speak, but we say it because it's true and accurate. But of course, neither Simon nor myself or any of our colleagues control the minister. The rules are made by the minister.
Exactly.
And so Simon and his team do their very best to get things in as tip-top shape and to the minister as we can. But ultimately, we have to wait for the minister to make the rules. But as Simon has said a number of times, they'll certainly be communicating where we're up to in the process and the next stages as we go along. And I can also assure you that once the rules are made, certainly through the NVES Regulator, we will be drawing attention to that through things like a newsletter. We'll probably speak to our regulated entities directly and make sure no one's in any confusion about when they come into effect, what they mean, and we'll be running more conversations then about what is in the rules, what do they look like, but hopefully there'll be quite a lot of time for you to actually understand them when you've got those few weeks to engage in consultation, then seeing what the drafting looks like afterwards. Now, just having a quick look at the questions still at hand, I think, Simon, you're off the hook. I believe the rest of the questions are coming back to my team. Hang around, though, just in case we have some more. And there is a question here that I might get you to sort of sit in with me, but I might have first crack at, and then you can help to clarify if I'm being as clear as mud. And the question is, will it be acceptable to use the draft version of the fit and proper person test in late September prior to the rules being legislated in late October? And so I think there's probably just a couple of things that I think is worth noting. So the Act itself says that we mustn't open a registry account unless we are sure someone is fit and proper. So the test itself in the rules is really just trying to put some clarity and shape and definition around exactly what does that look like and mean. So the short answer is yes, we can still go ahead and you can still apply for your registry account when we open that functionality in the portal. You can, of course, wait until the rules are in place, and that might give you some more detail about why we're asking for certain information or questions, although we will certainly try and answer that. And the short answer is to make sure the integrity of the registry is kept very high. But Simon, is there anything that you want to add to that? Have I captured it appropriately, do you think?
Yes, there's obviously a fit and proper person test already in the NVES Act, so that would be applied. The rules are just going to clarify or amplify a few aspects of that. So that's where we are on that. There's another question which I might as well take and get rid of now, which is on
Thanks.
the SEV scheme. Are vehicles imported under the SEV scheme currently exempt, and is there a future plan to include them under NVES? Yes, they are currently exempt because they are not brought in under a type certificate, a type approval. Is there a future plan to include them? There is some work that our team is doing to consider whether SEV's vehicles should be brought underneath the NVES. We don't have a firm view on that yet. The work's still ongoing, and I think it will be a while before we're ready to have a chat with you about that. We've got this key priority at the moment on the rules to support the registry to get NVES 1.0 up and running before we start thinking about the extra aspects of it.
Thanks, Simon, and thank you for seeing and taking that question. I'm clearly just should be the hands of my people today. Thank you. Thanks again, Simon, for that information and for joining us. It's really appreciated. So I'm going to circle back now to some of the other questions, which are getting sort of a little bit more deep dive into some of the functionality that either will or won't be seen. And so just coming back to the chat in Teams, we have a question, and Amalia, this one's probably going to be for you. Will the NVES icon show up on our Rover account now, or only when the register's active and set up?
For sure. And Aldrich, jump in. You might be better placed to answer this one. But at the moment, as it stands, it won't go live. You won't be able to see the button now. It'll become available post the release of the new portal. And then, Aldrich, did you want to add something post that?
Yeah. So on release of the portal, the icon will be available, but you will need to put the NVES management function in your authority to act for the icon to show up.
So if I can just make sure we've got that answer really clear. So today, going into Rover, no one will see an NVES icon. In late September, when we release the NVES portal, an icon will appear, but the Rover admin will need to actually assign that NVES management role, and then people will be able to start seeing it who are not admins. Have I got that right, Aldrich?
That's right.
Fantastic. I hope that's answered the question online, and thank you very much for asking these details. These are the things that people are coming to grips with. So let's go back to Slido. It was previously mentioned in the workshop in May, was the development of an NVES reconciliation function in Rover. Will this be released at the same time as the NVES portal?
I'll take that one. So
Thanks,
the
Aldrich.
NVES reconciliation report is available in Rover right now. In the RAV page in Rover, you do need RAV management or RAV submission function in your authority to act to be able to see that button. If you don't see that, please reach out to the team and we can help you get access to that.
Thanks, Aldrich. And if I can make sure we've understood as well. So once we are live and in the portal, will that reconciliation function be available from within the NVES portal?
There will be a link to that reconciliation report from the portal, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Aldrich. Okay, another couple of questions. In the NVES portal, is it correct that we can check the actual CO2, the target, and the penalty/credit for each model entered in the RAV, i.e. for each individual vehicle by VIN? And if yes, will that information be available for download in Excel format? It's quite a complicated question.
For sure. I'm happy to answer that one. So I'll break it into two parts, maybe even three parts. The first part is, so CO2, the emissions target, and the emissions value by VIN will be available for Excel, for download in Excel, and that information is already available through the report that Aldrich was just touching on. In terms of credits and penalties, they're slightly separate. Credits are only issued post IEV, and penalties are only issued post FEV, so they won't be in the Excel spreadsheet because they're a separate thing. But yes, you'll be able to get your CO2, your emissions target and your emissions value by VIN for Excel download, and that functionality is already available.
Thanks, Amalia. So let's keep moving on. Will there be a test environment we can use to expose our finance teams to the portal ahead of launch?
Audric, would you be able to answer that one for me, please?
Yes, so we are releasing a very limited test environment. We sent through some EOIs for that last week.
Yeah, maybe if I could jump in, Aldrich, because
Yes.
I think maybe what the question's getting at is not so much those people we've asked to put their hand up to help us test before we launch, but actually for those who are bringing new users in, particularly I think in the unit registry, people who'll be maybe haven't been involved in Rover to date, haven't been uploading or managing data in there, but might be coming into the NVES space from, say, the finance teams where they are just looking at the unit trading aspects, so they won't be familiar in the same way with Rover as many of our other users. We won't have a particular test environment, but what we will have is we will have some detailed guides. We'll have videos that walk through and that you're able to stop and reverse and sort of look to about the actual steps and functions that you'll be able to undertake in the system. But most importantly as well, you will have your account managers who will be available to help people, Amalia and Rob, who we heard from earlier. I fully expect that the first time that someone gets into Rover, particularly if they're looking at, say, just unit trading, it might be a little bit overwhelming, a little bit confusing, and lots of information they're not sure about which parts belong to them. I would really encourage that we will have further webinars, we'll have further face-to-faces, we'll be publishing guidance, information, videos and other things to help support users, but also that there's no rush, and so we are more than happy to work with the entities. So for you to talk to your to your account manager and to talk about maybe there's a time you could set up to support your new sort of players, I guess, in the registry account. So there are one more question at the moment, and then we are, I think, getting close to the end of current questions. The next question that's up right now is how Rover System will manage their systems issues if a company could not submit data in the last date. Now, I'm not sure I've understood that question quite as clearly, but let me see if I have understood it. I think the question is asking if you've been having troubles if a company couldn't submit data, how will that be managed in the system? If you've had trouble or you haven't been able to submit data so far, certainly there is still all of the normal supports through the Rover help desk with both the email and the phone number. I think email probably being the preferred place to go. If you are a regulated entity for NVES and you've been struggling with your Rover pieces, your account manager can help to articulate and understand what the issue is and help to make connection into the Rover help desk area. But I may have got the question wrong. So if whoever's posted that question, if that hasn't answered your question, please let me know if we need to come back to it. We've just had another question pop in. So the next question is, we've been informed that an entity can download the record of vehicles entered to the RAV for the entity via the NVES reconciliation report in Rover. That's a direct quote from the regulator. However, this function does not yet exist. So there is actually an NVES reconciliation report currently available in Rover, as far as I'm aware, and we have had entities using that particular function. So if you're not able to get that working for you, could I suggest first and foremost going to have a look at the What's New, What's Different guide from the last release, which did actually introduce this functionality. But then if you're still not able to access that reconciliation report, which is currently available, then please reach out to the Rover help desk, who should be able to show you exactly how to get into that function. So that's there's been a whole lot of new information, well, maybe not new necessarily, but more detailed, quite a lot of information coming up today. So we will circulate the materials that we've had, the slides online, etc., to everybody who has participated in this webinar. And as I've said before, we will actually also publish the video of this webinar. If you're a regulated entity, please do reach out through your account managers, or you can drop us an email at the good old NVES Regulator email address, which is nvesregulator@infrastructure.gov.au, and that's posted in the chat as well, and if you need to access and capture that email. I'm just going to do a check around to see if anybody would like to jump in with a question with a hand up online. It looks like we've not got any outstanding questions in Slido. I think I've asked all the questions that were in the chat, but please, if I haven't, let me know, and I'm happy to pose the question. Is there anybody who has got a question that wanted to put their hand up? Jump in. Yes, John, please. Thank you. The brave
Thanks,
first
Karen.
one.
And I've just published a question in Slido, but I think it hasn't been reviewed yet.
Thank you.
Will you publish written answers to the Slido questions?
Yeah, look, we sometimes we find it a little bit difficult to do every single question because sometimes we're trying to clarify the questions as we come along. But look, I'll talk to the team and we'll work on trying to make sure we capture, even if there's double ups, it might be a sort of a consolidated question, but we'll do our best to actually publish some Q&A along with the video.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Looks like we might have had another question coming. Oh, so this is in relation, I think, to the earlier question or the earlier comment about the reconciliation report not being available. It says with the report, it's listed to the distributor or by manufacturer. Is it listed to the distributor or by manufacturer? So my understanding of the reconciliation report, it's by VTA holder. So if you're for the NVES, and in fact, when you're entering your data, you're entering it by VTA. For the NVES, the regulated entities are the VTA holders. And so the reconciliation report, I believe, is by VTA. Please feel free to correct me, team, if I've got that one wrong. No one's jumping in to say that I'm got that completely wrong, so hopefully that is an accurate answer. Okay, so we have a few minutes spare. It looks like has someone raised their hand? It's not coming up on my end. I might be getting a bit of lag at my side. If someone's got their hand up, please feel free to jump off mute and ask your questions. Apologies, I can't see it right now. Oh, Greg, it's just popped up for me then. Yes, hi.
Yeah, my question in the chat. It just took a while to get my chat question up, so that's all
Oh, great. Okay, no. So did we answer that? So
yes, you did. Thank you.
Fabulous.
I'm just going to get the end drop down.
No problems.
Okay,
gotcha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Apologies, everyone. I'm obviously having a little bit of lag on my side. So if you've got your hand up and I haven't called on you now, please do feel free just to jump in. We're getting to the last 8 minutes of time. I don't have any other questions waiting on Slido at this point in time. If you still have got a question on Slido, we'll just give it a minute just in case there's some lag and it's coming through. But otherwise, we will. I guess I'll start to wrap up by saying thank you again for attending. We're starting to get to some really fun times. We are seeing that things are coming together in terms of all of our entities are working so hard, doing fabulous work to try and make sure that we're getting all the right data come through. thank you for everyone who's engaging with your account manager. For our regulated entities and for our peak body who supports our regulated entities, we do have a face-to-face coming up in September in Melbourne. We will be diving into more detail of the portal there and really being able to sort of, I guess, play, for want of a better term, into some of those really deeper questions. And of course, by the time that we are meeting in September, we'll have the consultation paper out and be able to make sure that you understand the processes to get all the comments back to Simon and his team, and that you have your chance to have your say on these pretty matters these matters that actually impact you. Oh, a late question, excellent. I do love a late question. Do you get a credit when vehicles are exported? Look, it's a really good question, Greg. So the way that the NVES works is that we're about when vehicles come into Australia, they get entered onto the RAV. That's the point of compliance for NVES. So if they're a covered vehicle that's not currently exempt, then they count towards a fleet mix. So that's the point in time when our compliance activities happen. Of course, it's the vehicles are. It's not about a single vehicle getting a credit or a debit, it's about the fleet mix over time. So just looking around for one last chance, otherwise I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes of their time back and get my team cracking on how we can give some of the additional questions. Thanks, Genevieve. She's just published, one of my teams has published into the chat as well, the link to where our past webinars and events are published. So I'm getting a bit more au fait with YouTube, where you can actually click into and watch each of the webinars and review the slides. If you want to, you can listen to them and hear my speaking, but also most people will be looking at the slides and understanding the content there. This webinar will also go up in that same area as soon as we're done. So can we just go back one slide, Vinny? We have found it useful to hear from you about what's worked and not worked for the webinars. This is the second webinar we've had where we've actually been taking questions in the chat and allowing hands to come up. I'd really be interested to hear if that's working for you as a format. Moving forward, in time, I'm not exactly sure when, but we won't have access to Slido specifically as an agency or department, sorry, soon. And so I'd be really interested in what matters to you about how you're able to actually interact with us in the webinars. Will the chat and hand functions be good for you in the future, or would you like us to explore some other alternatives? So please take a moment, if you could, to give us your feedback about how we're planning for our future engagements, and give us your thoughts about what's effective or useful to you and what you really could do without. So look, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for your attendance and time. As always, we have got the email invesregulator@infrastructure.gov.au. I really appreciate the questions. I think they're the most useful part for me of these webinars. And the video that we, just to add the video that we had played earlier, which shows you the fly through of the portal and talks through the different elements, that will be published at the same place where we have our webinar publications on the YouTube playlist. So you'll be able to access the video separate to the slides themselves as well. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. I hope it's been a bit of a smoother entry now that we've got Teams as our core offering. But as I said, we're keen to hear from you what's worked and not worked. Have a fabulous afternoon. We look forward to seeing our regulated entities in September in Melbourne. And for everybody else who's joined us, thank you. We look forward to engaging with you further as we keep having exciting things to talk about for the NVES. Have a fabulous afternoon.